people are dying, and mommy is crying and she smiles. She wants a cheese rock and some fruit snacks. Cheese rock. The clowns are not joking. The sinners are crying.
Nanyamka, Ewing, one of the most beautiful people that I've ever met in my entire life. You're absolutely lovely too, and you look ravishing today too. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We have briefly discussed what we talk about here today in this series. And so far, you're only the fourth female artist or non-male artist that I've talked to. So getting your perspective on this whole scene is important. I would say that you're certainly one of the godmothers of this St. Louis scene too, as much as you do. And you perform, you produce, you're a publicist, your own marketing, all that stuff.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of hats.
It is
for sure.
I love hats though,
Yeah.
So some days it's, I'm wearing, a beret and it's a little hotter and I need a little more coverage because it's cold outside.
Yeah.
And some days I'm just wearing this little something.
Yeah.
It's like just a little something.
Yeah.
And it counts. So the little things really do count. And I think that's how I've been so successful, or for recognition wise, is paying attention to those little details, and not only just looking at the scope of just the music, the sound, but like how's the energy of the room, how's the crowd, and what do I want to portray my energy to my crowd, because it's like stage time, it's show time.
Yeah.
So it's like they're being focused on you. So it's like when I'm on stage, that's the purest form of myself. And I'm almost out of body, but in body, but showing everybody. And yeah.
I've said that about myself. Like there's Chandler A and Chandler B, and you're probably talking to Chandler B.
Right.
A belongs on stage. So when did your career, not even your career, but when did you begin understanding that you wanted to do music or entertain?
I think it's always been like since I was a kid, but it wasn't always like, it was either like art or music, and then like other like rhythms of normalcy kind of got in the way of that, because I was like, well, it's safer just to kind of blend in and do this, but like I'm coming up with these ideas and these concepts for like parties for like 8th grade, and as I got older, it was like hanging around with musicians and friends and artists and being like, I think I could do this. Like that looks like, I love sitting here singing around with everyone, and like I start going to karaoke, and I'm like, that was just a taste of the lights, and you're like, you know what? Let's see where else I can push this, because you grew up, you did choir, or I did choir, or sometimes it was required, but it was also a chosen elective too. Or I was always in some type of little art class or fashion class or something. So there's always been a sprinkle of art in many forms in me, but like as I've gotten older, I've been in so many different industries that I purposely placed myself in to learn more and grow more. And as I got older too, having understanding of so many industries is really like locked in. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just gonna put on a show.
Yeah. So there was some point that, did you realize that you were marrying all of those aspects to, like, you're actually performing, playing an instrument, singing, the dress, actually putting on the show? Did you realize that all that was coming to, culminating, or was it just, you just looked up and you look back at your history and there it is?
It was like the chicken or the egg or something, because like when I was like 26, I decided, I'm like, I want to learn how to play the bass. And so I got one off Craigslist for some kid who was just trying to sell his like bass for Mardi Gras. So he spent like $200 probably all weekend. You know, thanks kid for that like kind of cheap Ibanez bass, and I'm sure you had a hangover. I hope you had a good time. But like, which is so St. Louis.
Yeah.
And you know, I miss Craigslist in that way in so many forms for just, you know, I need this. And then I started learning basically kind of a bit by myself, and then I would ask friends for help, and then started kind of throwing myself more into the scene and going to shows, and maybe like the shows were coming first, and then it's like eventually I started picking up the instrument and maybe playing with some people who were, you know, who were playing music, and then I was more serious than they were. So I kept reaching for a goal, and then once I figured out, you know, the basics of playing the bass or keeping the rhythm, and then, you know, playing in some bands with some people, like I think we played in Crazy Truffle Ex-Girlfriends, I think, or that was like the first band I played in. Yeah. So like that was I was like literally just picked up the bass the year before. But like I was just hanging out with these people, they're like, I'm like, oh yeah, like that. And then I started taking lessons weekly at Gaslight, and Mark would, you know, just stick with me, and we'd work on technique and the basics, and, you know, played maybe 1 or 2 shows with them, probably not even a full show, but we practiced every week. And that was good practice for me, but again, at that like level, what they wanted wasn't really matching up for where I was at. And my bass sucked. It like, really, it's like I was struggling with a piece of equipment just to be playing with it, and I needed to invest in something better too. So like, they let me go, but 3 days later I started with piano. I was like, you know.
Yeah.
And I had songs that I written. There was a group that we were unserious group that I was in, but like I written these songs, so I had songs that I was writing at one point, different years back before the bass came up. So it all kind of was meant to be when it needed to be.
Yeah.
Not because I said it to be. And I think that was like also a lesson I had to learn. It's like, even though I can see where I want to go, doesn't mean that I need to get there too fast, too quickly. Am I prepared for it? In many situations, I wasn't always looking at the full like scope. It was just like, I was just trying to get the show. I was trying to get the gig. I was trying to get myself out there more so people can see my band, and, you know, I can, you know, be my purest form of myself. And it was like chasing after it. But also it's like, how do I get more seats in here? And it's like, well, why don't we make it a theme? Why don't we make it a party? Why don't we, you know, change this room over that's never been before? And I'm not saying I'm the first person who's ever done it, but I was very consistent about it. Or just overthinking, I'm like, what's holiday is it? What's going on here? What normally happens around St. Louis around this time? I don't want to compete with other people or take away, and also I want to go to that event. So that was also learning that looking forward instead of looking like what's right now wasn't always best for my band. And
wow, that's brilliant. Because now makes me think back to Spookapalooza, which is one of the first anything that my band, You People, had played.
yeah.
And it was a festival. It was a full-on. Were there multiple venues?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That's insane. I'm insane.
Yeah. Well, it was.
I was like, well, because we had like RFT Showcase, and I'm like,
yeah.
why don't we have more of things like these? And I love Joe Hess, and I love like everything that he does to like bring all these like ragtag, very original, very pure artists together. And it's like, why do we only have this once a year? But I know, you know, being a producer, it's like, oh, this takes a lot of planning, a lot of time, a lot of community effort and build, and a lot of your own energy. And you can plan and you can place and do everything, and then you just like, okay, I planned months for this party that's only 4 to 5 hours. Or actually at that time it was like 13 hours. I'm like, why did I do that? And like, whoops. So I was always adjusting and moving with that too, and to be given the space and negotiating with people and being like, can we do this here, or do I need to get sound equipment for here? And it's like, even then there was a good success with that, but also there was always a financial burden with that and a lot of like labor, because, you know, above all anything, I'm a mom. Like, I have a kid and I work. I think I was in college at that time too. I went back to school, and I started a band, and I don't know, I was probably running off mania, but felt good at the time, but looking back, I'm like, that was insane. Like, there was so much extra work I was doing that I didn't need to do, but also I had to prove to these people that I deserve to be in this space. I'm going to take this space, I'm going to make it my own. I'm also going to let other people into this space too. And Spookapalooza and other just different events that I would work with other people and collaborators just kept, you know, they would get bigger, it'd be smaller, you know, bigger ideas, like smaller attended sometimes, but like the pictures look great, you know?
And you can't tell who's behind that camera.
Right,
you know?
that too.
It's just like, oh, it's the photo of the stage. There were 60,000 people there. You know?
Woo!
Yeah.
Sold out.
Right. Yeah. I just remember it being a ton of fun, and you know, everybody, you know, most of the people that were there were dressed as whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think later in the afternoon, I ran into you and Heather Sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Things were going smoothly, but you were busy.
Yeah.
Like really super busy. But I'd like to think that, you know, I guess you had it a few years, right? Or were there?
I did it. Okay, so there's one. Well, I did one at the library first, and I think it was like on a Friday the 13th, and I had like 13 bands, $13. And they tried to do like 13 or 15 minute sets, so I like flipped the livery like 3 times. Like there was 3 stages. There was one outside, one in that like middle room, and this was livery 3. And then there was the front room. So I had a bunch of bands just rotated out. I'm like, well, what if I do this again, but maybe with Cherokee Street because there's different buildings. So that was the second one, and then I did it again at a second year in Cherokee. And then I did it the 4th year at the Zach building in Midtown, the Grand Center, at one of the Pittsburgh Arts Foundation locations.
Nice. Wow.
So yeah, and that was the last one I did. So
that was 2019?
It was 2021.
2021.
Yeah, so we were just getting out of the pandemic. It was kind of a very big risk to try to like, we were being safe for sure, and people had, you know, the credentials and everything, but it was still very a weird time and a big investment at the same time too. But I think like joy and giving joy and experience of joy drives me. Like people need to be fulfilled in so many ways, and if I can see the vision and execute it, then it's like, okay, what lessons have we learned from this, but what experience did we gain from this?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think, was that 4? We did 4. 4 of them, and I had like a bunch of other kind of series of things that I did, but that was like my major one.
Yeah.
That was my baby. But I can always go back, but again, financially, it was like, no, I need, growing up, I was like, I can't risk, you know, throwing $10,000 parties for my friends.
Right.
Like sometimes I break even, sometimes I end up owing people, a lot of times actually, I always ended up owing people money. So it was like, okay, so now I have to, you know, compensate, pay people back, show some integrity, let them know what's going on. And that's always like, that's a big tough part with being a producer. It's like, hey, we took a loss, so give me some time, I'll pay you back. And most people are very cool, and people are like, oh yeah, just take your time, I get it. And you know, you'll be like, March comes around, I'm like, I don't owe anybody money.
Yeah.
And I can breathe again.
Yeah.
So, you know, you take on extra side jobs here, or, you know, I was fully working as an event planner and musician and artist for about 1.5 years until like maybe that last one kind of took me over. I'm like, okay, so we gotta get a little serious.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not in college anymore, you're not really, you know, you're still taking care of your kid and stuff, but like that kickback that I was getting in different ways, I had to be very calculated about it. So it's like, I can do this many events in a month and I make my rent and I pay all my bills.
Yeah.
And that's how I started looking at it too. I'm like, if I have this steady gig and I can play a show here, and then, oh yeah, that's going to be a great gig there. And that's how I would map out my like independent, like worker, artist, musician, event planner. But then 2020 happened and just is like,
Yeah.
you get me around people. And you're like, people? I made my
people.
whole business off people and, you know, sharing experiences with people. And so that was really a big reset. And wasn't like, and then coming out of it and back in and seeing success in other people's venues or their experience too. So it wasn't like there wasn't enough love to go around, but there kind of wasn't at the same time. Or do I put my tickets at this price because of the risk, or should I make my? And this is still a game that's played.
Yeah.
It's like $5. It's like, oh, that's not a lot of return, but then like $10. Okay, that's decent. But again, like that might waver people from not coming when they get higher and higher. So it's like, oh, $5 or like $10, I can do that, blah, blah, blah. So you also have to gauge out other people's economy and what's going on in the world. So it's still a game that's played of like, what's a reasonable price? So yes, you cover your loss as a producer, as a venue, and as a booker. And then as a musician, it's like, am I getting paid out enough? Or at least is my band getting paid out enough? Mm-hmm. And it used to very much be, I've had ups and downs with a lot of band members. There's some people that we are not on speaking terms and they should not be in the same room with me, and vice versa. Because, you want to play, you want to have fun, but when you have all this light and great energy, I think there's a lot of people with a lot of dark energy who are attracted to that, or they want to exploit that, or they want to get a little taste of what you have, but they don't want you to succeed more than them. They don't want you to shine more than them, because once you start shining more than them, they get darkened again.
Yep.
And yeah, that was also a hard lesson to learn. Like, you can't always share your energy with everyone. You can't always share all your good ideas with everyone too, nor can you expect them to like understand your motives and what your outcome is, especially if they're very eye-centric or internally focused. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're trying to get only the dollars. I'm like, there's a couple more things than dollars that comes from these type of things. Or you want this goal, but it's like, there's so many things that we need to get before we get there. And eventually we did reach all our goals in different ways or form, but it's like, unfortunately, like, attitudes is a big thing. It's like, I can't be fighting with you before I go on stage. Yeah. I'm supposed to be the diva. Yeah. What is going on?
Mm-hmm. But it's a delicate, like you said, not you can say, but with egos, like dancing around certain egos and things like that too. It's like, look, man, this is really about having fun.
It's like, I just want to
Yes, I just want to play.
I just want to play. I just want to play. And but to some people it's more than that, and it's like, okay, so either I have to convince you to see where I'm coming from, mm-hmm. And you need to take a step back, or I need to take a step forward and lead better and teach you how to treat me and how to treat this music, because again, it is my originals and you are following me. So, sometimes a whole democratic band situation doesn't always work out, mm-hmm. and there's always a different type of labor or love that gets put into it. So like, as a front person or front woman of this band, it's like, I will take the financial hit, but I got you fed, right? You're okay, right? And figuring that out. And I think I've always actually had a good rapport of that. But then when those dynamics changed, it wasn't really resistant on my part, because I'm like, finally some help around here. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Why are you talking to them like that? Why are you talking to me like that? Like, what is going on? And so it very much was like, oh God, I just need a drummer. And it's like, oh God, no, I don't. No, I don't. Not that bad.
Yeah.
Not that bad. But then from those bad experiences, I got really great people in my band. So, working with Moses, and then Nick Wetzel's, I worked with him at the City Museum, and he joined on into the band as a drummer because I used to produce some. It was like 21 and up shows for a little bit for a year there on the rooftop with a couple people, and like more than a couple people, it was a handful. It was again an experiment, and also that was kind of one of those difficult terrains to navigate because of like electrical problems and security, like all that. You always got to keep everything into account. And it's like, okay, safe, we can do that, and we can't do that. Well, we can't do that. Okay, so who's available for here? And then you get all the people organized. Yeah. That's a different portion.
Yeah.
It's like, can you play the gig?
Yeah.
I got this much of a budget. And then I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And they're like, great. And then other things happen and dynamics in their band might happen. So it's like, okay, so we don't have a drummer anymore.
Yeah. Part of that is too, if they're in demand, they're probably playing for 2, 3, 5 different outfits anyway. So a rehearsal is tough enough to get together, let alone put, a gig date on the calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was very, and in a way, I was very blessed to have. And then like Casey's my piano player, but I've known him since like 7th grade, and he's plays in a lot of just bands around town, and he plays guitar, and he was in drumline back in high school, and like so I asked him, I'm like, do you want to play the piano? He's like, yes, it's my favorite instrument to play. I'm always playing all these other ones. So he's been there from the beginning, and then Moses jumped on, and then Nick jumped on finally, and then there was a few other people in and out, and sometimes I had I had a flute player at one point, and I had like some players, and I was like adding more people to the band to try to get more people out while I'm just like trying to run around and grab the band and the people, and I'm just like, well, this doesn't make, I'm like, that this needs to stop too. So like
it's like, now there's a 19-piece band here.
Yeah. Which I've worked with, not 19, but like once I got the solid foundation of the band, of me as the rhythm section, I'm the bass player. Okay, we're gonna follow me, but I'm also the lead singer, so I'm not gonna be too heavy on my bass riff because I'm trying to also concentrate on my vocals and giving a good face.
Yeah.
Giving a performance. And then Moses is like running around, being Moses, and like ripping.
His wireless guitar, cable, no cables, and I love that.
Yeah. And then Casey's just like holding in between the melody and knows when to come in and come down and come in. And like, we're crashing, we're gonna crash in, and then my my drummer just keeps the steady beat too, and we can very well lock in with each other.
Yeah.
Because you're like, dang, I just need a drummer. But no, you need a drummer you can lock in with, that you two can understand the language that you are trying to create together. It's our rhythm. We are the rhythm section. So I'd be like, I want to sound like yeahs sort of from this one snippet of a song, and then he will hyper fixate on it and practice on his own, and then like bring it back, and then we would like mesh all our different talents and different moments to shine, because I always give a drummer something, give everybody a little something, everybody get a little something, and then I'm like, all right, back, I'm singing, shut up.
Yeah.
All right, and we're good. And then that's also a dynamic that doesn't always sit over well with other musicians. And just becoming from me, it's me. Like, I am very much a chocolatey woman.
Yeah.
And and as much as people say I'm progressive, but I'm like, you're not. You still have some bias. Yeah. You're not used to taking orders from anybody like me who looks like me. And then you are very much outwardly shining that out and reflecting it at me. So most of the time I gotta pivot with your energy and be like, okay, so I can either throw it back at you, like people say I match energies. It's like, you don't always want to do that, and sometimes I get caught up in it. But especially if I'm tired, especially if I'm overworked, it's like, oh damn, they know I'm weak. They know I'm weak right now, and they got me. And now I'm the angry black woman. Oh,
right. And I mean,
I'm like, I am angry. I'm always pretty much angry. I have every reason to be angry. Yeah. But I just don't express it all the time the way that you get to outwardly express your anger all the time. And it's like having to work as hard as I do to even get a little bit of recognition. It is the 3 times as much, 4 times, even 10 times being completely overqualified and ready for, you know, a position, and then here comes this freaking white dude who's like unqualified, like, and then it's like what,
wrinkly shirt, messy hair,
you're wearing pajamas.
yeah.
But you got, okay. And unfortunately, we played the same show on the same night, and everybody went to your show. Like,
I don't give a damn, I don't give a damn, I don't give a ding dong damn. I don't give a damn, I don't give a damn, I don't give a ding dong damn. Look at my face, check out my taste. So goddamn amazing.
Being a woman in charge, you know, and especially, you know, a woman of color, a black woman in charge, that there's just something about people can't take direction. What I was gonna get
they're
to
a little
was,
less hesitant to
Yeah.
take direction or
Yeah.
have that trust in it, even though we've been taking care of everyone forever.
yeah,
So it's like, I can take care of your kids, but you can't trust that I can take care of my band
yeah.
or, you know what's best for me or the people who are around me. So yeah, I gotta wait for a couple seconds for you to drop down your defenses before we can actually start talking business. Yeah, and that's a lot of patience.
Yeah. There's something to be said for like a musician that can take direction,
Mhm.
and you know, then there's musicians who can take direction from anyone that's leading.
Right.
You know, and it just depends on sometimes that musicians, like, it depends on who's giving those directions.
Right.
Right.
And also, it's like how you're saying it, and it's like I do recognize that I could have a tone, but sometimes I'm too tired to mask, and I'm like, can we just do it this way, please? And I don't want an okay. I don't want to talk back. I just want an okay. We can try it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and let's just leave it at that.
Mm.
And you know, there's time. Sometimes there is time. There's time for a collaborative piece when we're like writing the piece together or when we're building it. But then there's time for like, okay, so we were done planning and now we're executing. So the opinions about the execution is not always on the table right now, especially if there's a deadline, which is like the shows and like it's the last practice we get and you want to throw something new.
And, you know, there are some
It's
bands
Thanksgiving and you want to change the recipe up.
there are some bands that can handle stuff like that, but there are a lot of people that are afraid to, or not afraid to, but there are a lot of musicians that, I mean, working with Mark was tough because he'd want to throw a lot of, you know, monkey wrenches into the works. And we were able to pull these things off, but it's like, man, if we had started rehearsing 3 weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months ago, no problem. But dude, this is hard.
And I throw my bands because I'm like, okay, we're doing this, and then this, and then we're gonna set it up, and then this is what we're wearing, and then you know, either like most of the time I am purchasing their clothes to match my clothes, so it's like I want a full presentation, so it's like this is what I'm wearing. What do you mean you lost your button up? Like,
So you purchased you.
for the most part, I do purchase their clothes, and then like I had like if you lose your button up, I'm not buying you another one type of thing. Like very much like if it's a special occasion, I would just buy ties or something. And then they eventually would start, you know, growing their own style on their own because it's like, oh, I give you a little base to kind of work off with, and now you know what you like and what fit you like looks good on you, and then maybe even colors, or you might even, you know, this could only be your strictly band clothes or whatever, or then you know, you get to wear your shirt you bought for a wedding like 3 years ago again. So we're all about recycling the outfits.
Yeah.
But
I don't have much to go around. I mean, you see me wearing, you know, I'm in a black band t-shirt. I've got more of that than button-ups for sure.
That's standard uniform.
It is. It's just.
I wear a lot of band t-shirts and I have very much casual clothes, but I do like to dress up.
Yeah.
I do like to put it on.
I love going on stage with, you know, an idea, with something, with a theme, and it doesn't have. There aren't too many bands that I've been in that will actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, playing with Jessie, like she and I definitely want to, you know, zhuzh it up for things. Jessie Halbauer, and you know, the other guys aren't. They'll, you know, put on a nice shirt or whatever, but they won't throw on jackets unless we do really decide and talk about it.
Yeah, you gotta buy it for them.
Yeah,
because like if they really don't care, then
everybody
they don't care too much, or they want to care, but not everybody like can afford to be like, let's go buy a jacket. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You buy it for them. And it's like, this is my project. I want to see this complete form of this, you know, fully realized, and I want to match the decor. I want to show that we are, you know, a group and we are cohesive. And, you know, growing up watching, like, you know, MTV and just, you know, listening to Motown and watching all these, you know, the Temptations and the Supremes and how they present themselves. I'm very much influenced by that type of cohesiveness that has gotten away from a lot of people, but very much puts you a little bit ahead, because people, it's like, it's recognizable. They're like, oh, they put effort.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. It's the little things.
Yeah. So growing up, and just a couple of artists that you cited, you know, the Temptations and the show and things like that. Who did you see that? If it was in your personality to put on a show, that's one thing too. But was there some artist or a group of artists that you saw coming up and you're like, yeah, that's it?
Yeah, always Janet Jackson. Like, I'm very heavily influenced. Like, watching Janet grow up, I grew up alongside Janet. I was also the baby of the family type of situation. And I was very quiet-ish in a way, but I was always thinking and I was always observing. And I really loved her demand of the room and the stage when she walked in, even when she was little and Jackson 5 was like out there. And then like very much my sister took me and my brother to, I think it was in 6th grade, and she took us to see Janet at the Velvet Rope tour. Mind you, I probably was a little too young. It was spicy. It was very sexual, but it's spicy. But Janet puts on a show. And there's production, and there's costumes, and there's dancing, and even Rhythm Nation had that movie too. And me and my brother used to watch it, and you're like, dun, dun. You're like learning to dance. And like even MTV, they used to have more of that, you know, making the video or making the band. And I credit that a lot to my imagination of like building a fully realized, like, if I'm gonna be on stage, I'm gonna be on stage. And like, we're all going to be on stage. We're all going to shine. And like, even if my band's not playing and I made a really cool stage set, another band looks great too. So it's very much going that extra mile and like letting those like inner child goops just come out on all over the place. And it's very receptive. People really, really, really receive it well. I forgot what I was talking about.
Well, about, you know, representation, seeing something that, you know, sparked that interest too.
I was talking about Janet.
Yeah,
and
Janet.
I love Janet. And I love, you know, and then there's the princess of it all too. A whole spectacular thing. Fully, like, here's this, here's that. Not only is the music good, and Mark used to tell me all this time, he's like, you can do all this planning, and you can do all this, you know, booking and stuff like that, but if you don't know how to play your instrument, it's all for naught. And so that I was very also dedicated to that too, because I just don't be like, oh, she's just a girl who just plays the bass, she doesn't know how to play that well. And times I did not know how to play that well, but I got really good, and what I got good for me, you know? I got where I felt comfortable at, where I could play and also build and also hear the rhythm in my head and then execute it and then lead the band and showing them like, okay, this is where I feel like you can do a little bit more of this, or I'll make some noise, and they're like, okay, and then they can put it. So taking, again, their skills, their brain power, and then learned, I don't know what it is,
like orchestration, like to
conduct, like, and making a shared consciousness. It takes work, and it takes trust, and it takes, you know, on your part of building your skills and being patient with yourself and being patient with others. And it's like, I'm not always allowed that. I'm not very much allowed to, storm off and cuss somebody out right before a show. I'm not gonna say it's never happened. I don't think it has ever happened. But, if it did, it very much, I thought about it for years of being like, I don't want to be like that person ever again. Or like, if the music and the pressure and everything was getting to me, it's like, I'm not associating music with fun anymore. Now it's just like work. And it is work in its own way, but it's like, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. And what can I do to start enjoying what I'm doing? Because this is what I love to do. So, and sometimes I'm just like, oh, it's this person.
Yeah.
Narcissists love to make you think that you're the problem.
Yeah.
And, recovering people pleaser, just getting like, I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers too much because then they will be like, I don't want to be in your band anymore. And then like, that's a piece of power that they can take away from you. But eventually what I learned and getting out of like some of these very tough situations working with men, especially in this industry, is taking my power back. I'm not trying to grab power, I am powerful. And that's the difference. And that's why we have conflict, because you're trying to take my power away and I'm not going to let you. Or I was just getting too like comfortable and dealing like, oh, of course they're going to have a little hissy fit. And then I'm already, okay, next, moved on. I talk them down, let's move on. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be like that and shouldn't have to be like that. And why am I putting up with that? It's like, you teach people how to treat you and how to love you and how to respect you. And if they're honest with themselves, you could do the same as well. It's mutual of growth.
Yeah.
That I don't know, humans.
Yeah. I think it feels like we've had this conversation before, but maybe it's just echoing things that I learned over the years, like the conversations that we've actually had, while I was in California, over Zoom and things like that, and talking tarot and spirituality and growth and things like that too. So where does that play? Where does I take it you're highly empathic?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you
right? It has its backlashes, but I think that was also the struggle of knowing what power you truly can have. Is that not trusting my gut instincts and letting not only myself talk myself out of it, but other people talk me out of it. And I can never get away with anything. Like, I instantly get my karma back. I'm like, I should have never did that. I knew not to do that, and I just try to push it, and I try not to listen to gut instincts or even, ancestral connections being like, what are you doing? Or this person is not a safe person to be around. And it's like, well, I just need to get through to the next gig, or I need to get through this. And it's like, no, you need to let go of this. And that's also growth and learning and trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, because you only know who you are, because you spent the most time with you this whole entire time. Nobody else has. But like, people show you who they are in different ways and different patterns, and recognizing those patterns in either, putting up a boundary and moving away from that is sometimes very risky, or sometimes you miss opportunities that, they should have been yours, or it's like, no, they're not yours. It wasn't meant for you right now.
Yeah.
It's like you weren't prepared for it right now. There was, some type of thing was off, or another cog in the wheel that would have made this experience not good for you. But then you put in your time, you grow, you're still doing what you do on the side, and then an opportunity comes back again, and you're like, oh, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, yeah.
But, and then also working with people and working with musicians on stage, because sometimes there's that non-verbal communication, that connection that you share with your bandmates and then also with your audience. So what do I want my audience to feel? Is this song sad? I want you to feel sad, but I want you to feel like we can get through it together. And sometimes going into producing a show all day, like getting it set up and running the stages, and then you take your hour or two to get ready. I just need an hour to put my makeup on. Sometimes I don't get it, and then I'm not fully prepared as an artist to be there. So it's like, I wasn't fully coming in my show like as my best self, but it's like the anger of it all. I played a better show, and my just performance was more raw because I guess I pushed myself to that point. But I'm just like, that's also not healthy, because then now you're connecting anger to your music and energy. And yes, we all have this, like, we listen to music that helps us express that, and you know, very much why gravitated towards like punk and you know, all these other aspects of rock when I was like younger, growing up as a teenager, in between that time, because I was very much exposed to it, I watched a lot of MTV. Like, I'm one of those kids. I was watching TRL. I was watching the shows, and everybody's show. It wasn't just like, oh, here's a hip hop video, and that's the only thing that I'm interested in. It was like, no, what's that? I'm like, what's Sade doing? She floating in the water somewhere with some wind. It was great. And you know, pop icons all over the place, or the start of girl bands. God, I miss girl bands.
Yeah.
And, you know,
you mean like, give me an example.
Yeah, like SWV and like En Vogue, and all the way down to like Your Destiny's Child. Yeah. And I was very much a Destiny's Child, and Beyonce broke my heart. And I know it was a mutual split up, but I took that personally. I really did. I was like, dang, I really did take that personally, because again, that was very, very powerful Black female representation, and like, we got our outfits, we're looking great, we're survivors, we're independent. We have extremely good vocals. We're putting on, again, a whole show. Like, and you know, I admire Beyonce on so many levels because of her as a performer. But then she's like, I'm a performer, I'm beautiful, I'm my body T, and like, I also can sing. Yeah. So it's very much women like that you see, that you're like, I am capable of doing a lot of things all at once, all the time. And I want to showcase that, and people want to see that. But it's, the energy that goes into it. It's like, oh God, can I please just do, like, I would love to do a show that I'd set up, but I didn't have to set up.
Right. It's something in the style, if somebody give it to you, but you're just there to entertain. Yeah, and I'm there to entertain.
And there's been opportunities where I can do it, but there's always just something. Like when you're doing production, there's always something. It's like you can plan, you know, every which way, like to Texas to Timbuktu, like you really don't fucking know what's gonna happen when those lights go on. Yeah. And it's like, so I'm cutting this for my set, or I'm doing this, blah blah blah, and so dropped out, but okay, we gotta adjust it this way, and blah blah blah, and this vendor didn't show up. So it very much is almost like impossible for you to throw a whole production of your show, or what you would envision, and then step away from it all the way. But then again, people like our divas, they have a whole team who can execute their needs. And I have a community, and I think that's very powerful too within itself, because they have a shared consciousness of putting on a good show. I just did a show last year with Ann Johnson's Digital Ephemera, and it was very much her lead a vision of connecting tech with art and making it an art show, but not just like, you know, an installation at an EDM show type of thing. And my band played, but I was very much helping organize and, like, you know, see it as a fully realized show, and helping her work through that and top of that. And then I learned so much about like engineering and lighting and stuff like that. I'm like, you guys do, oh my God, but I love lights. So it's like.
So was that where you were all wearing all white, and you had the
she built that outfit. Like, so we worked and collaborated on that outfit. We had other models and performers, like have like almost like a bass. Like we bought like a bass. She got a rack grant too, so it's always really
I'm trying.
This rack it's a great resource, and she and I were just like, okay, we found some basic things or whatever, and she's like, oh, I can put these lights through it, and then you can control it with these batteries and blah blah blah. And I'm like. But it was like a lot also for her, because it was like a live show and costume working, and it was something new and experience that too. And I do like sewing and costume work to an extent as well, and I'm very glad we like bought the bases and not had to do anything for scratch. But I don't do anything too spectacular. Very much DIY queen, and you know I'm keeping a bass, and then I'm gonna buy these little extra things, and then I'm gonna be sitting here sewing on sequins. And again, like the burlesque girlies, I hang out with the girl, like, so we're very much in performance art, visual arts, theatric almost in a way. But here's my band. I have a lot of sound engineer friends, even though my drummer is a sound engineer at the Till House. So it's like they've been able to explain it to me from their point of view of things that performers don't always understand or don't get at the time either. And I'm just like, oh, no wonder they're doing these side looks. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we got a sound check. You only get one sound check.
Yeah.
You might get all they'll probably do in the mid moment is adjust a little bit up once the bodies start getting in there, because there's some science.
Yeah.
Where's the sound bouncing off of? Once you put bodies in there, that fills up that space too. So then they have to adjust and move around and do all these other things. But you always want to, you know, if you feel like you need to run it back again, say it. And be polite. But like, if you need your monitors turned up, try to say it in a polite way on it too. Like even if it's live in the show, it's like, hey, can I a little bit? So again, that's having a good working relationship. They very much can control your show if you piss off the sound. I'm not saying they'll do it, but they very well could be like, and I have seen people do it too. Very much so, and that's probably why I don't work with some of those people anymore. But like, and it's 100% why I don't work with those people anymore, and it's 100% why other people don't work with them either. So it's very much, I'm not gonna say anything, but you can tell I move in silence.
Right.
If so and so's not around anymore, it's something either happened or something happened.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people just grow apart or distance and stuff like that too. So, but you know, mind your business.
You had said before that you'd love to play a show or a festival, something that you would design, but just be the artist. Talk to anyone else out here in St. Louis or the surrounding areas that's putting on these shows. What would that look like from your stance as an artist? How would you want to see a show? Or if you had like a seminar as a promoter, producer, what would you say?
Oh my gosh. Well, it starts with, where does it start? It starts with the designer, the theme. And then first to your wildest budget in your head of, I want it specifically in this space. And then you have to also think, oh God, it's like facilities. Can I hang this from here? What's a fire hazard? What like, so all those things and those elements, it's like, yeah, it'd be cool. It would be like almost like a dome that was built for this like specific scenario of hanging things and being able to take things down and pop it up and having it in-house, because it's always about like the rentals. Can I get this on time? Can I do this? So there's so many elements that I don't even know how I could ever be satisfied, because I'm like, how do you teach that? How do you teach that? Or where do you start? And usually sometimes it's your limitations that what gives you those other genius ideas to incorporate. It's like, well, this building is really cool and funny shaped, but like, what's the air conditioning like in here? what are the bathrooms like in here? So like, are the bathrooms gonna be cool? Like, people love a cool bathroom. We have an opportunity to do that. So it's either building a whole thing from scratch, building a whole building from scratch for not maybe one longevity of an event, or just like, hey, it's a venue. And I always say, it's like, do I have an outlet? I got some flat surface, I can build a stage.
Yeah.
It's a stage.
That says a lot too, that, you know,
You can build a stage anywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
stage, anti-stage,
Yeah.
you know. That's something that I never thought about too, that, you know, there are a lot of venues that a lot of people will go to, but there are certainly a lot of venues that a lot of people won't go to because of, say, the bathroom, because of, I can't see from the, you know, if I'm stuck in the back.
right.
I don't drink. Are there any options for,
Right.
you know,
People could be breathing on me all night long.
Yeah,
Like,
is
can
it
I sit down?
smoking,
Yeah.
not smoking? Yeah. That kind
Yeah,
of
so
thing.
it's very much like, it's controlled chaos. So I think once you get like all your safety and measures and your limitations set there, then you can really start building from that. Like, my job now, I work for the Cringework Arts Foundation, promotions and events manager, but like specifically, mostly at Sophie's Artist Lounge. Like, I have the infrastructure, I can work with a team of people, and then we all build like a whole event together, but it's all like, no, we can't put, like, we'll have like other, you know, artists or whoever come in and they want to, you know, do a pop-up event, or we work together and do something with them. But it's like, no, you can't put that there because we need 3 feet on each side for people for accessibility. And they're like, oh, or, you know, sets up the smoke alarm, or like, oh, people with their vaping. I'm like, you see one person vape, it's going to be little clouds everywhere. And then all of a sudden people are smoking inside, and there's artwork in here. So like, also considering the artwork, and these people are trying to sell their stuff, or now it has smoke damage. So it's like just looking ahead in so many different dimensions of almost like I'm trying not to piss people off. Who will I not piss off? And do they have an opinion on how to make their job easier? Because when you make their job easier, or you even think about other people's jobs and creating your one night or those 4 hours, there's always a lot of moving parts that go into it. And a lot of, you know, show goers or people who go to the events really don't know all of it. Took a lot to keep you safe, to bring you this euphoria. And then now we have these humans who've been working on their craft their entire lives, and now we're going to bring them to you as well. So they also have their own heaviness. So you can definitely tell a good event from a bad event. And things like clean bathrooms, like bare necessities, or where are the trash cans at, can really like throw an event off or make people feel uneasy. So like, considering all that, it would take so many people, not just for me. And I think that's another reason why I do what I do. It's like, because I want to give people the best show they possibly could dream of with the circumstances and the things that we have, you know?
Yeah.
And then build on that, or try to like, oh, how can I get budget to make this better next time? Or, you know, we're almost set up for this, but with this, like, you know, you look at some aerialists and they need to have those hooks installed in the ceilings. Not a lot of places will let you do that. But then what they've done, and same thing with my, you know, artists who do pole, they have pop-up poles and pop-up aerial, or they'll build them themselves out of PVC pipe. So they're like, I love the burlesque girlies down bad, because they will find a way. One of them brought a bathtub in one time, an antique one. I'm like, they will find a way. So again, and the theatrics part of it all, like having that, like, let's talk to the theater team. Let's talk to the seamstresses and everybody, and like, what can we do to make this? And then here's this concept, and you start with the concept, you start with the idea, and then you rely on others to help you build and formulate that. You can never do any of this shit by yourself. Like, and that's also a lesson. I know there's a lot of things I can do, and there's only certain things that I have the eye to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, can I help you? I'm like, you can rip this tape up for me. That helps me.
Yeah, yeah. Even It's
even
a
that.
sales job.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, okay. Because, like, I've handed people, like, you know, flyers or something to hang up, and they're just like, okay. And I'm like, I didn't even think about putting that on straight. Okay, so I'm going to see. I'm going to find something else for you to do. But it is, again, the little things, like knowing how to rip up gaff tape and roll it up and it stays on one side, or to lay it down this way. Is also, like, you have your markers, like, there's a special way of doing it, and there's also a half-assed way of doing it. And then, again, safety is always a concern of just, like, you don't want to put stuff to block people from getting to a different exit if whatever happens.
Yeah.
So, and you don't want to have that show, like, that.
In, what was that band?
Was that Astroworld?
Yes.
That, I saw that live.
Like, Pennsylvania somewhere. Are we talking about the Great White Show, or what was that band?
Oh no, this was like Travis Scott.
Oh, that
was scary watching it when Twitter back in the day. It was only like 2 years ago, wasn't it? Twitter back in the day. People were like, and they weren't really monitoring stuff too, so people were live during that show, like people being crushed, and that terrifies me of being in a space. And I remember like watching all that happen, and then I went to go see Thundercat at the pageant, and it was a great show. But like, I was like, oh, let me get up to the front a little bit, and I'm like, you know what? No.
Stay back here.
But also, you think about Woodstock 90, was that 90? That terrible. Yeah. There's some documentaries that are very
94.
Yeah, it's hard to get through those.
Yeah.
It was it was 99 because like Fred Durst was around.
That's it. Yeah.
But like, you know, even talking to our security people that we work with and just watching these documentaries, it's like, you know, when they're at capacity because the crowd starts waving.
Yep.
They look like, and that's when things get dangerous. And it's like, everybody wants to see the show, but not everybody gets to see the show, especially if some of y'all like to show up day of.
Yeah.
Like, where my ticket at? I'm like, you know I'm busy.
Yeah. And you can hear the crowd.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever put myself in that position again. I'm like, young me might have been able to be like, woo! Now I'm like, oh my God.
I want to be on stage, offside of the stage, backstage. That's where I want to be.
Yeah, and I want options of places to go sit down and get away from all of it too, because you know we sometimes all that fun's overstimulating.
Yeah.
So it's like giving people a little rest spot. So really, it would be like back to the initial question. It would be something from scratch or something that can be very much added onto without consequences. You can make things last a lot longer.
Yeah.
Like I get a lot of vintage clothing, and I, get given clothing, and then some things get bought off Amazon. But I don't play about my leather goods. Mm-hmm. Like I will make sure I have a good leather purse or a really good pair of shoes, because I know I'm gonna be wearing the crap out of this shit so hard that all at once. and I'm gonna maintain it too to make sure that I can keep it longer.
Yep.
And that's like back again to the craft of your lighting engineers and people who make you really pretty space lasers and stuff. Like they are musicians and they have their own type of magic too in ways that they express themselves. So I also like, linking up and hearing their opinions and everything. And I'm sure they have a imaginative budget, and also they have their labor of love projects, just like any other artist. Like some of us are very blessed and also cursed to work in the fields that we love.
It's tough.
It really is tough. Yeah. And then sometimes you don't have enough energy left at the day for your project.
Yeah.
But again, it's back to trusting your instincts in your body. It's like, when am I most comfortable? When I can express myself, I can decorate, or there's already decorations made. My band's gonna get taken care of. I'm gonna walk away with something if I don't buy stuff for people or myself, which sometimes, but I get to keep it. It's mine. But so yeah, and then back to the wood shit, like that energy and feeling that, and seeing which groups work really well together and what people really thrive off of each other's imagination and who grounds who. Because I will admit, I will be like, oh, let's get on the train, let's go, and I'm like, you better hop on or we're out.
Yep.
And sometimes I need to be grounded, and I need to be held back. But really, it's bureaucracy in a way. I kind of like it because it does hold me back in a way. I'm like, okay, so this is how I don't burn things down. Gotcha. Yeah. And then but I will always question if there is a reason. I'm like, can I ask why? And then some people don't want to be questioned. And then it's back to that misogynoir. It's like, what are you doing questioning me, black woman? Yeah. And I'm like, well, can you explain to me why this couldn't happen? Or what are my limitations so I can kind of realize this in a way? And they're like, oh, well, I never thought of that. Oh, well, we could perhaps. And that's that's that human thought process of, again, getting that clear consciousness of working together. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I was too used to doing it because I've always done it this way. And now I can look at it from a different way. And I'm not judging you. I just want to know I'm just curious. How do you execute your job? Yeah.
Just in case I need to
I'm not going to learn
this decision myself.
Yeah, or if I need to stick up for you when somebody else brings me up that situation, I'm very curious. I'm like, how do you go about doing point A to point B? And again, how can I make it easier? But how can I communicate to you what I'm looking for? And is there a middle? There's not always a full compromise. Because I feel like sometimes there's always a lost way with a compromise. Compromise for what?
Yeah.
This
says a lot about. I can see bands. I can see bands that I'm in. I can see bands that I love. Taking into account these types of situations and bringing something more than the music and a raucous stage show. Great. That's what we're supposed to do. But actually making this entertaining for more people than just those diehards who are going to stand here in their band T-shirt with their arms crossed and holding their ground, legs spread out. I'm not moving. And that's a lot of St. Louis crowds, and that's a lot. I'll stand there and do that. I am studying the band and I'm watching, and I may be used to playing to. I've always been in musicians' favorite bands. So it's 80% musicians out there. If there's 100 people, 20 of them don't know what the fuck's going on. But the rest of them are standing there analyzing what we're doing.
And you feel that too when you're on stage. You're like,
yeah, absolutely.
Stop
stop, stomp your feet or something. But being,
I missed that, but you don't need to say nothing.
Yeah, you didn't have to point it out. I've done pointing and I've done pointing.
I done too. Because we're very passionate about it too. We also are trying to figure out what magic you're making with your hands over there. It's like, what's that pedal you got?
So tell us, which we just did. Tell the other bands, tell all these other bands what we need to do to get those bigger crowds. What are we missing? I want to play to more non-musicians and people that are marveling over something stupid. We all made a mistake and then we caught it, and nobody laughed about it.
They don't care.
It sounded like we did it on purpose. I want to play to those people that don't know what's going on. How do we get them into the room?
I know that's the age of
That's yeah.
I think
And I think putting on this show,
putting on a show, and it is an age of digital oversaturation. So how do we poke through people's algorithms to get them to see that, like, oh, you got Beyonce at home, like, and people will spend money on entertainment and also on concerts, but if they don't know them, it's like, well, why would I spend even a fraction of my money on somebody I don't know? It's like, you will know them by the end of the show in a way. If you want to be in a human connection, part of the human connection and experience, you very much can get to go know your bands around town. And I've been a huge advocate of that. And it's so many avenues I've studied and overstudied and experimented with, especially with my band. I experiment with us a lot and figuring out what would work better, but sometimes it's like getting the colleges on board, getting sometimes the venues on board to allow more live music, but again, they have to think about their overhead costs. So like they can't necessarily always afford to pay a full band what they're worth, or a DJ what they're worth. And it really is, it's government. Like, y'all need to give us money. We need more grant opportunities. We can very much put the stuff together. We're very much skilled to do it. Give us money. Like, that's it. Like,
right.
Give us money, give us freedom, and stop oppressing us so we can go live and go, like, create a world and give people a reason why we're here, to be here, to experience each other, to evolve off each other, and to create these moments with one another. And again, as much as technology has been a curse, it's been such a blessing, because we can record these moments, we can take photos of these moments, and we can relive them over and over and over again, and not just in our heads. But also put your iPad down while the show's happening. Like, what are you doing?
My God, yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So, also treating other people with respect. Audience etiquette is the same as bar etiquette as well as band etiquette. Like, when everybody comes to the show, like, you know what, I'm gonna have a good time. I'm not gonna get mad that there's a little bit of rules here, but these rules were placed here for my own safety and my enjoyment. I'm just gonna sit back and let this vibe take me.
Yep.
That's when you create like the best experience, and that's when you have the best time, when you're just like, oh, everything's taken care of.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, the music's great. Oh my God, there was this one band too. It was the Ready Room at the time, and like the guitar player just like kept turning his amp up. And of course he's a white dude, so it's like there wasn't that many people at the show. And you know how like empty that room gets. It took me out of myself and soul. And it was just getting louder and louder and louder and louder, and I'm just like but it was like a female-led band too, and I'm like, how are we, everyone allowing this man to do this? And that's, again, goes back to like their privilege. And then I'm like, I see him a couple months later playing in another band. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
I think were you at that show?
Probably.
I think.
But and meanwhile, his amp is on the floor, pointing at his ankles. He can't hear it because he doesn't have ears on his feet. Like.
And it's already dialed in and mic'd, so like obviously.
Yeah. It's gonna
come out to those.
Yeah.
And as you turned your amp up, and your very much your sound engineer already checked your amp for volume, you don't need to turn it up anymore. Now you're just blatantly being an asshole on stage.
And that's when the engineer goes, click.
I don't think the engineer even did it. We were all just trying to figure it out. We're like, oh my God, this needs to. Uncomfortable.
Oh man. Hey, I can't thank you enough for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think.
Yeah, this was
so. I had it. I was rambling, but I loved it. I'm a certified yapper.
I'm glad. And you answered so many of the questions that I had in my head by leading into the conversation as, naturally, and that's one of the best interviews. That's awesome.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you so much. So what's going on next? Where are you playing? What are you promoting? What are you doing? You said you usually
take the winter time off, dial back. I need to finish my album. I really do. And again, that's me going out there and putting all the skills I've learned into getting like grants, and because I started it in 2020. I got a RAC grant, which was beautiful. Thank you, 2019. I made a music video with it. Started half the album, and then like March of 2020, I was gonna premiere it at Blueberry Hill. You booked it. I think you booked that show. Remember that? That was like
yeah, I did.
Yeah. And we were gonna premiere it, but everything started
just
coming down, and I got half the album like recorded. You know, you're gonna like always put, when you get grants too, you're always gonna put your own money into it, and you know, my money went into survival more than, and then I couldn't be around my bandmates or people and stuff, so we weren't recording, and then I was also extremely depressed, like up and down. So like we finished half of it. I wanted to re-record our first EP and then add on to it. I still very much have this vision of this, like, I don't feel like it's stopping me, but I think it's very much my most, like, that's my next big thing I will do, is completing this album. And again, resources, money, and time, and mood, it like all goes into it. So it will happen. You know, and I'll make another music video, because I love music videos, and those are fun, and get the team, the Avengers, back together. And you know, it's always not the end. It's like, maybe next time. Maybe next time.
To be continued.
To be continued.
The clowns are not joking, the sinners are crying, and Daddy is lying and she smiles. He wants a just like some fruit stands. Just like. Child's eyes, the simplest of things like